Last year, Bang Si Hyuk stated that K-pop is in crisis. This was met by a lot of ire by fans of other K-pop groups who appeared to have been making headway in other markets such as Europe and the US. In 2023, Blackpink, Twice, Stray Kids, TXT, Mamamoo, 17, and others went on massive tours. There were some who speculated that Bang was simply patronizing BTS, whose members are serving the military. So, was he simply patronizing BTS? Was he trying to minimize the contribution of other groups? Or was he right? Was and is K-pop really in crisis? And if so, who can save it? There are two ways to look at this, quantitative and qualitative. Of the two, quantitative is the easier to explain since data will back it up. But qualitative is easier to claim since it could be very subjective. In this video, we will try to do both.
Hi! If you do end up liking this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, please share the video if you can because that's really helping my channel. And of course, subscribe and hit that notification button so that you know when there's a new video getting published. Okay.
First, Bang Si Hyuk was looking at the 2022 numbers. South Korean customs data showed that K-pop album exports in 2022 exceeded 230 million worth, marking a 4.8% growth from the previous year. While that is still growth, this is dwarfed by previous years' growth, 62.1 in 2021 and 82.6 in 2020. And that's the main issue. That 4.8% is too small compared to the previous year's growth. And more importantly, 4.8% does not make up for inflation. That leads us to the next point. Value is different from quantity. Before we go any further, let's cover some basics. First, quantity does not reflect value. The simplest way to think about it is the purchasing power of your money. Let's say 3 years ago, $100 can buy you 2 weeks of grocery. Now, $100 is barely enough for 1 week. That means the value of money went down. That is inflation. So for you to outpace inflation, you need to earn more than the rate by which your money went down. So for example, and this is just for simplicity, 3 years ago, it costs you $100 to buy 50 kilos of meat. Now in 2023, if it will cost you about $120 to buy 50 kilos of meat, then you need to earn $121 to be able to claim you are progressing. I hope that made sense. Real inflation. Another thing to consider is the real rate of inflation. Right now, the US government claims average inflation in the last 3 years is not above 5%. But if you look at grocery prices, utilities, and others, prices have gone up more than 100%. So no matter how much you slice and dice it, inflation is higher than what the government wants us to believe. Now relate that to K-pop. The increase of 4.8% in 2022 from 2021 is not enough to outpace inflation. So while it may look like the industry is growing, it's actually losing money. Another important lesson, media play or PR is not reality. If there is anything we should have learned from 2023 is that media play or PR is not necessarily representative of reality. Anyone can claim anything for as long as they are not maligning anyone else. There's really no consequence to be had. So I can claim that my artist is the biggest for 2023. No one's gonna budge for as long as I'm not saying their artist is not the biggest of 2023. And this applies to any kind of information the media puts out. It is important that we ask questions, do a little research, and to be brass about it, use some common sense. Next lesson, gross revenue is different from net revenue. Remember that gross sales is exactly that, gross sales. That's just how much I was able to earn, but not exactly the net revenue. If I made a bracelet and sold it for $10 in Amazon, that's my gross sales. But then how much did it cost me to make that bracelet? How much is the raw materials and the labor cost? How much do I need to pay Amazon? How much tax do I need to pay? How much money did it cost me to advertise that bracelet to result into a single sale? Apply that to K-pop again. Let's just take HYBE as an example. HYBE, or Big Hit, when all it had was BTS, may earn 100 million. But it's only spending for one group, BTS. So that's one styling team, one team to promote or marketing, one dorm to pay, etc. Now, HYBE may be earning 150 million, which is more than 100 million, but it's also spending for 10 groups. That's 10 styling team, 10 marketing groups, 10 dorms, etc. And then you can apply that to other agencies like SM, YG, JYP. They may be earning 100 million, but how much are they spending to maintain the groups that they have? Now that some of the basics are out of the way, let's get down to some numbers. Did K-pop do better in 2023? It did in some respects. Let's get to album sales. Last year, the Korean Customs Service released data on exports and imports, saying exports of music albums between January and October reached 243.81 million. That is up 20.3% from the same period last year, and they are anticipating that it's going to go up to 300 million. If it does, then that's way better than the 4.8% increase of 2022 from 2021. Further, the album's annual volume of overseas shipments have surged from $40 million in 2017 to 136.2 million in 2020, then 220.08 million in 2021, and 231.38 million in 2022. By country, Japan is the biggest market last year with 157.06 million, followed by the US with 54.32 million, and China with $23.33 million. Export to the American market jumped 67.3 year on year. That's big. Taiwan, Germany, Hong Kong, the Netherlands, Canada, France, and the UK rounded up the top 10 list. However, did you remember our basics? For the whole of K-pop to gross 300 million, how many albums had to be released? Remember that each album is an expense. Each promotion is an expense. So while 300 million sounds really, really good, the bottom line may not be as good. Now let's get to the charts. In 2023, 5 different albums by K-pop artists reached the #1 spot on the Billboard 200. That is the most leaders in this tally in a single year. But it's only one more than in 2022 when 4 efforts reached the summit. For 2022, 4 albums, Stray Kids 2 albums, BTS 1 album, and Blackpink 1 album. For 2023, Stray Kids fielded in 2 albums, TXT 1 album, New Jeans 1 album, and ATEEZ 1 album. Again, 5 is better than 1, but it took 4 bands to get 5 leaders in 2023 and 3 to get 4 leaders in 22. So the bottom line may be a little bit more flat, but still a good result because you have more bands or more groups participating. In Billboard Hot 100, things look way better because it does measure individual efforts. In 2020, there were 17 entries to Billboard Hot 100. 13 came from BTS and 4 came from Blackpink. In 2021, there were 9 entries. 5 from BTS, Lisa had 2 of Blackpink, Rosé of Blackpink had 1, and Twice had 1. In 2022, there were 13 entries. BTS fielded in 11 and Blackpink fielded in 2. For 2023, K-pop fielded in 22 entries. BTS 13, New Jeans 5, Twice 1, Stray Kids 1, 50/50 1, and Jennie of Blackpink 1. Now for concerts, just the top 10 K-pop tours would amount to almost 500 million in gross revenue. Considering the world didn't open itself for concerts and tours until late 2022, it's safe to say concerts would contribute a lot to the net revenue of K-pop for 2023. However, remember to go back to the basics. Gross sales isn't equivalent to the net earnings, with over 100 stops between the top 10 highest grossing K-pop tours. That's 5 million average revenue per show. But in 2022, BTS earned 230.7 million across all formats for 12 shows, with an average revenue of 19.2 million per show. So while 500 million gross revenue is really, really good, we should still be doing better. Next, BTS established a ceiling. It's still there. Progress is when there are more groups doing bigger things. And that's the questionable part. While BTS paved the way for more artists to be noticed in other markets like the US and Europe, as evidenced by the numbers of tours in Western areas and Western charts, no one has gone farther than BTS. Outside of Psy, no one has landed inside the top 10 of Billboard Hot 100. Let's not even get into the European charts because that's harder. No one has come close to the vicinity of the market power of BTS when it comes to music and cultural influence. And the most important question, what about the future? It is unquestionable that third-gen groups raked it in, BTS, Twice, and Blackpink. But fourth-gen groups haven't shown any sign of solid global presence. TXT and Stray Kids seem to be the most consistent, but they still need some push to make it to the mainstream discussion. Again, I'm not talking about getting to the level of BTS, but just enough to maintain the presence of K-pop in the mainstream spaces of global media and global market. When Bang Si Hyuk spoke about K-pop being in crisis, he isn't just talking about now, but the future as well. Third-gen groups are slowing down. Who are the fourth-gen groups? And there has to be more than one or two that could solidify their presence in the global market. So yes, Bang Si Hyuk wasn't just talking about the present, he was also talking about the future. He wasn't just talking about the numbers, but the value behind the numbers. Just like any other businessman, worth their salt. There will be a part 2 of this video and we will analyze the earnings of each agency for 2023.
Okay. I would love for you to share your thoughts. Please leave them in the comment section below. And you can always get in touch with me in any of the social media links that you see on your screen right now. And of course, subscribe, hit that notification button so that you know when there's a new video getting published. More importantly, share the video if you can. Thank you.